Okay, class. So for today, we will be discussing interrogating globalization. So here, we will be, the topics are the following. We will be looking at the definition of economic globalization. And then, we are going to talk about the actors that facilitate economic globalization. And last one, we will be looking at the effects of globalization, most especially in the Philippines. So for our lesson objectives, at the end of the discussion, the students will be able to discuss economic globalization as a complex process responsible for enormous global um, enormous global sanit enormous global and local change, explain economic globalizations accompanying cultural and political globalization, articulate the assumptions behind globalization, and critically evaluate the impacts of globalization for poor countries. So, let's begin with the word interrogating. When we say interrogating, it means we are going to analyze a certain idea or belief, especially by thoroughly and dispassionately questioning its underlying assumptions. So here, what are we going to interrogate is the word economic globalization. So titingnan natin lahat ng what economic globalization as well as yung mga components niya. When we say globalization, we already discussed it, di ba? May mga positive and negative definition nga tayo ng globalization. And when we say development paradigm, it is an idea, prescribed path to attain development through certain set of activities according to a defined vision. Let me share with you first a quote from Datu Bontulan. He talks about a proposed business investment in their ancestral land that displaces indigenous communities. So sabi niya, if this investment happens, we cannot cultivate our lands anymore. We cannot grow local crops on our ancestral domain. They will only force us to evacuate and use the military, who will not think to kill us twice if we stop their project. So, dito, sa quote ni Bontulan, makikita natin na yung isa sa negative impact ng economic globalization. Now, while economic globalization brings business investments, foreign investments, ang nakasalalay naman dito is yung mga lands ng ating um, in, ng ating indigenous communities. Kasi ang ginagawa ng mga businesses, since dito sila nagpapatayo ng mga factories and mga stores, since sa highlands, masyadong mura yung mga lupa, so kinukuha nila yung mga lupa nitong um, indigenous communities na already considered as an ancestral land, meaning mahalaga sa kanila yung lupa na iyon. So that is one of the impact of economic globalization. But before we delve deeper with the other negative impacts, let's talk about what economic globalization is. So when we say economic globalization, it is a complex process of expanding the market economic system all throughout the world. It is a corporate-driven process of enhanced transnational exchange of products, services, technologies, and capital, creating an increased interdependence of world economies. So, based on the definition, we can draw that ang ibig sabihin lang naman ng economic globalization is that yung mga ekonomiya sa buong mundo, they are connected and interdependent. Ibig sabihin, yung mga ekonomiya became more reliant on each other. So, for example, yung Philippines, of course, the Philippines cannot stand on its own. So, we need to rely with the superpower countries like the US, the China, the Russia. Kaya 'di ba nung panahon ni Digong pinapatatag niya yung relationship natin with China kasi isa na din yung sa superpower um, country yung China. So, ganyan ka-connected yung mga economies natin. However, the danger there is that kapag nagkaroon ng, let's say, financial crisis sa bansa na interconnected tayo, lahat ng mga bansang interconnected doon sa bansang nakaka-experience ng financial crisis. Lahat ng yun, mararamdaman yung epekto ng financial crisis. Hindi lang doon sa bansa kung saan nagaganap yung financial crisis. So, ganun ka-interconnected yung mga ekonomiya ng mga bansa. It is also mentioned here that it is a corporate-driven process. When we say corporate-driven process, it indicates that the big companies or corporations are playing a big role in making globalization happen. So, sila yung nagda-drive sa mga changes and they also make decisions that affect how our products, services, technologies, and money flow between countries. So, according to IMF, here are the flows in the ages of globalization. The important aspects daw of globalization includes global trading, capital flows, and movement of people. So, isa-isahin nating i-discuss to. When we say trading, it is composed of international trading and global trading. In international trading, syempre, when we say trade, it involves exchange of goods and services between countries. So, sa international trading, yung nagiging possible yung pakikipag-exchange natin ng goods and services between countries because of the international fiscal payments kung saan yung mga private banks and central banks play an important role in facilitating transactions and managing currencies in terms of trading. So, isa-isayin natin anong ginagawa nitong mga bangko na to. What is a private bank? What is a central bank? When we say private bank, so this bank provides services to individual, businesses, as well as government. So, sila yung nag-facilitate ng international transaction gaya ng wire transfer. So, for example, may babayaran ka sa Amazon, yung Amazon, US dollar yung binabayad doon. So, gagamitin mo yung private bank mo, which is in peso, and then, i-input mo doon yung card mo sa Amazon, and then, automatic, yung Philippine peso magiging dollar. Kasi, yung pagpapadala mo doon sa Amazon is already considered as wire transfer. So, and then, currency exchanges. Sa currency exchanges, alam nyo naman, from peso to dollar, dollar to peso. And letters of credit, meaning mga loan, nagpapautang. So, yan yung mga ginagawa ng private banks in terms of trading. Example, yung mga BDO, BPI, 'di ba? Yung pagpapadala sa ibang bansa is made possible because of these banks. Yung Western Union, kadalasan ginagamit ng mga OFW kapag magpapadala sila ng pera sa ibang bansa. I mean, coming from ibang bansa papuntang Pilipinas. When you say naman central bank, meron tayo niyan gaya ng Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, and this bank are responsible for overseeing our monetary policy. Kung para sila yung nag-check kung okay pa ba yung flow ng pera sa Pilipinas. And sila din yung naglalatag ng mga policies para maayos yung banking system ng Pilipinas. For example, di ba nagpalabas ng policy yung Central Bank na kada araw dapat hindi tataas sa 500k ang transaction mo. Kasi if ever lagpas 500k, parang red flag yun sa kanila. Maaring pag-isipan kanila and maaring matag ka as money laundering. So, yan. Kaya, nagsiset sila ng mga policies para protektahan din yung banking system ng ating bansa. When we say naman global trading, it concerns about the importation and exportation. So, may idea naman kayo nito, but let me explain ulit. When we say importation, it's the process of bringing goods and services into one country from another country. Nag-aangkat, ibig sabihin ng importation. So, bakit nag-aangkat ng mga goods and services yung mga countries? Nag-aangkat sila because it's either they cannot produce the product, the imported product, domestically, or kung mapoproduce man nila, mas magagastusan sila compared sa pag-import na mura para sa kanila. So, for example, yung China, nag-i-import sila ng banana coming from the Philippines. Kasi maganda yung quality ng mga prutas natin. Hindi nila, parang gusto nila yung quality, pero hindi nila maproduce ito domestically because of the climate limitations sa China. So, ginagawa nila, nag-aangkat na lang sila ng bananas dito sa Pilipinas. When we say naman exportation, it is the process of sending goods and services produced domestically. So, yung mga domestic products natin, let's say in the Philippines, yung mga abaka, pangga, banana, pili, yan, ine-export natin yan, pinapadala at ibinibenta natin yan sa ibang bansa. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, pag nakapunta na kayo ng ibang bansa, sa supermarket nila, may mga Filipino products. That is because nag-e-export tayo ng mga produkto natin para maging available sa ibang bansa. So, bakit naman nag-e-export yung mga bansa? Or bakit nag-e-export ng goods and services yung mga bansa? Of course, para to earn foreign currency. And second, to stimulate economic growth para gumanda yung ekonomiya ng isang bansa. And to take advantage of competitive advantages. So, yan yung pagkakaiba ng international trading sa global trading. Sabi ng IMF, another aspect of globalization is the so-called capital movement. When we say capital movement, ito yung paggalaw ng pera or financial assets between countries that have different currencies. So usually, yung capital movement, it involves the investment of capital from one country into another. Typically, ang purpose bakit sila nag-i-invest is that, of course, business expansion and to seek higher returns. Ibig sabihin, para dumagdag yung or tumaas yung kita nila. So, one manifestation daw of capital movements is the foreign flows. So, the foreign flows can take various forms gaya ng foreign direct investment, um, portfolio investment, or yan yung pag-invest sa stocks and bonds, loans, or remittances sent by migrants back to their home country. So, yan yung mga foreign flows. Yung paggalaw ng pera galing sa ibang bansa papunta sa home country mo. So, yan. What do we mean by foreign direct investment? So, yung mga sa foreign direct investment, yung mga transnational corporation or in short, sila yung mga businesses that operate in more than one country. Meaning, kalat-kalat. Marami siyang physical store, marami siyang kumpanya sa iba't ibang bansa. Primarily, undertake foreign direct investment. So, yung foreign direct investment, it involves the establishment of business operation or acquisition of assets in foreign country. So, ang foreign direct investment daw, yung mga businesses, for example, Coca-Cola, 'di ba yung Coke nag-originate talaga sa US, sa ibang bansa. And then, naghahanap siya ng mga target market, target country kung saan pwede nilang ma-take advantage yung labor and production cost. So, naghahanap sila ng mga countries na mababa yung labor cost and production cost. Kaya maraming may Coca-Cola factory dito sa Philippines kasi mura yung labor and production cost natin. So, meaning, kapag mura yung labor cost and production cost, tataas yung kita nila. Malaki yung kikitain nila. Compared na sa mga first world countries sila mag-i-invest, may hirapan silang kumita kasi sobrang mahal ng labor at production cost doon. So, they are looking for, usually nag-i-invest sila sa mga third world countries kung saan mura nga yung labor and production cost. When we say movement of people, ito yung paggalaw ng tao from one place or one country to another country. So, maraming mga reasons why people migrate or move to another country. So, for example, yung mga OFWs natin, one of the reason is, of course, to look for a better employment opportunities. Kasi, hindi sapat yung kinikita nila dito sa Philippines. Maaring nakukulangan sila sa benefits, nakukulangan sa sweldo. So, ginagawa nila, they are looking for jobs abroad which offers competitive salary as well as benefits. So, yan yung reason bakit nagmamigrate yung ating mga Filipino sa ibang bansa. Another reason can be education. Some people, lalo na yung mga mayayaman, they migrate to have their education abroad. Some naman, tourism, for the purpose of visiting the country. For the purpose of tourism. Now, let's move forward with the other types of globalization. So, we have the political globalization and cultural globalization. When we say political globalization, it is the enlargement of the international political system and its establishment where interregional dealings, including trade, are managed. So, anong ibig sabihin itong political globalization? So, ganyan ang economic globalization, papalitan nyo lang siya ng political. So, yung mga political systems all around the world are coming together on a large scale. So, here, the our leaders are looking for a bigger picture. So, they work together um, kasi may mga problems na na-experience yung kada bansa. So, para masolusyonan ito, nag-meet yung mga leaders. So, nagtutulungan sila para um, masugpo yung mga issues na halos present sa lahat ng countries. And aside from that, because of political globalization, nagkaroon din tayo ng mga different international organizations gaya ng United Nations, World Trade Organization, World Health Organization, as well as regional organizations gaya ng Association of Southeast Asian Nation, in which yung cooperation ng mga bansa is possible, is clearly seen in these organizations. Kasi bawat organization may kanya-kanya silang focus na issue na gustong solusyonan. So, the countries join that organizations and then nagka-craft sila ng mga policies na pwede nilang ipatupad sa kanilang mga bansa. When we say naman cultural globalization, it refers to the increasing contact between people and their cultures, their ideas, their values, their ways of life. When we say naman cultural globalization, yung mga different cultures from all around the world, they are coming into contact with each other. So, nagiging interconnected na din pati yung mga culture natin. So, this connection, this contact with another country leads to the sharing of ideas, values, and ways of life between people from different culture. So, for example, tourism. Yung mga turista, pag pupunta dito sa Philippines, nagiging aware sila sa kultura ng mga Pilipino. Kumakain sila ng balut, and ginagawa din nila kung ano yung nakikita nila dito sa Philippines. So, because of that, yun, nasi-share natin yung culture natin through tourism. Another example is yung palagi kong binabanggit, which is yung Christianity na inimpose sa atin ng mga Espanyol noong kinolonize nila tayo. So, bakit siya example? Kasi yun nga, inimpose nga sa atin yung religion na Christianity and we adopted it. Kahit na yung mga pagkain ng mga Espanyol, yung lengguwahe nila, na-adapt din natin sa ating language. Sa Bicol, di ba? May mga words sa Bicol na almost same meaning with the Spanish language. So, yan. Let's look at the different assumptions behind the pursuit of globalization. So, when we say assumption, parang yun yung mga haka-haka, yung akala nila. So, sabi nila, because of globalization, yung rapid economic growth will lead to development. But according to the critics, yung mga scholars, sabi nila, isang aspeto lang ng development ang economic growth. Meron pang ibang aspects dyan. Andyan yung social and economic justice and equity, self-reliance, welfare adequate provision of basic services, equitable distribution of opportunities, income, and wealth. So, hindi lang dapat daw ang focus is economic growth kasi marami pang other aspects para makita mo na yung country is nagde-develop. Another assumption is that, sabi nila, trading will bring prosperity. However, sabi ng ating mga kritiko, ng ating mga scholars, yung hindi naman lahat nagbe-benefit sa trading. Only some countries are benefiting from the trading. Kasi medyo sa trading, ang nagiging kawawa is yung mga third world countries. Kasi may mga ibang um, countries na nag-i-impose ng sobrang strict policy. So, magiging unfavorable na to sa ibang countries. Another assumption is that poor countries will benefit from the borrowed funds. Alam naman natin na hindi ito totoo kasi we already experienced this, 'di ba? Nung panahon ni Marcos Sr., maraming inutang yung ating gobyerno, billions of pesos. Pero sino nanginabang? Sina Marcos lang, binulsa nila yung inutang nila sa different financial institution. So, sino yung apektado? Yung mga tao. Kasi, patuloy pa rin natin binabayaran yung inutang during the Marcos Sr. administration. And, yung mga generations to come, mabayaran din nila yung mga inutang natin, ng bansa natin sa mga different financial institution. So, it is a burden to the constituents of the countries. So, hindi naman totally talaga nagbe-benefit yung bansa panangihiram ng pera. Another assumption, poor countries need to catch up with rich countries by implementing economic policies toward economic integration. Sabi ng mga kritiko, mahirap yan gusto nyong ipagawa. Kasi, hindi naman tayo in equal footing. Ibig sabihin, iba-iba yung situation ng kada bansa. Yung ibang bansa, underdeveloped. Yung ibang bansa, sobrang developed. So, mahihirapan tayo na yung economic policies natin is towards economic integration lang. So, may mga kanya-kanyang issue kasi yung bawat countries. Kaya hindi siya possible according to the critics. Aside from that, removal of tariffs, quota can ease global trading and will lead to economic integration. So, ibig sabihin nito, ang tariff is tax on imports. So, kapag ni-remove mo yung tax ng imports, edi murang mapapadala sa atin yung mga products coming from abroad or ibang bansa. However, very negative ito sa receiving country, for example, the Philippines, kasi since tinanggalan ng taripa yung pag-import ng products, edi murang maibebenta sa Philippines yung imported products. So, ang nakasalalay dito is yung mga local industries. Nagkakaroon ng unfair competition between the imported products and the locally produced products. Kasi, dahil tinanggalan ng tax, importation tax, mas tatangkilikin ng Pinoy yung mga murang imported products compared sa mga locally produced products na medyo may kamahalan. So, yan. Yan yung mga assumptions and mga corrected or mga critiques against these assumptions. So, let's move forward with the different institutions and actors shaping economic globalization. So, we already discussed this, and the important highlight for this one is that the globalization is not a random phenomenon. Hindi lang siya nangyari overnight na bigla ang nagka-globalization. So, it always undergoes a process. So we already discussed this. So let's talk about the different international financial and trade institution. Discuss muna natin what is a international financial institution. So usually, ito yung mga organizations that provide financial and technical assistance to countries and regions around the world. So, they play a crucial role in facilitating economic development, stabilizing financial system, and promoting international cooperation. In short, sila yung mga institutions or na nagpapautang sa mga countries. So, discuss natin yung different international financial and trade institution. First, we have the World Bank. The World Bank facilitate investment of capital for member countries. It fund large-scale projects by providing loans for member countries. Ito na yung sinasabi ko during our first meeting na yung mga World Bank hindi lang sila basta-basta nagpapahiram. May mga ina-impose silang policies na dapat sundin ng borrower country. And ito yung tinatawag na structural adjustment policy. So, ito yung mga programs imposed sa mga nagbaborrow na countries. So, first, kailangan ng mga countries na bawasan yung pondo in terms of social services gaya ng education, health, and rice subsidies. Ibig sabihin nito, wag mong masyadong bigyan ng pondo itong mga sectors na to. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, di ba, yung Philippines, borrower din tayo ng World Bank. Kaya nakasalalay dito yung health and education services ng Pilipinas. Kaya very poor yung education and health system natin. Kaya, di ba, kulang tayo ng classrooms, kulang ng teachers, kulang na mga kagamitan sa classroom. In terms of health naman, kulang yung mga public hospitals, kulang yung doktor, mahal yung mga gamot. Sa mga public hospitals, hindi pa masyadong ka-advancehan yung mga kagamitan doon. So, yung nagsasuffer is yung social services ng bansa. Kasi sabi ng World Bank, instead na yan yung paglaanan mo, i-prioritize mo yung pagbayad ninyo sa utang ninyo sa akin. So, yan. Aside from that, another policy ng World Bank sa borrower country is to increase the export products ng isang country and of course to remove tariffs for imports. Kaya lugi talaga yung mga poor countries kung maghihiram sila sa World Bank. Masyadong mabigat yung ini-impose nilang obligation sa mga borrower. Sa IMF naman, nagpapahiram sila ng money for short-term emergency loans. So, yung money daw na pinapahiram ng IMF, nakukuha ng IMF through their loans and nag-i-invest din yung IMF. Kaya sila nakakapagpahiram ng pera sa mga bansa. So, where lies the difference sa World Bank saka sa IMF? Parehas naman yung goal nila. Nagpapahiram sila ng pera. Nagkakaiba sila sa purpose ng pagpapahiram. Pupunta ka ng World Bank kung kulang yung pondo mo sa mga projects mo. Kulang ang pondo ng government, so pupunta yung government ng isang bansa sa World Bank para makautang and madagdagan yung pondo. Let's say for infrastructure. pupunta ka ng International Monetary Fund kapag sobrang nangangailangan yung country mo ng pera. For example, may kailangan kang bayaran sa another international financial institution. Kaso walang-wala talaga yung country mo. So, lalapit ka kay IMF because they provide for short-term emergency loans. So, dyan nagkakaiba si World Bank saka si IMF. And then we have the World Trade Organization. So, from the word itself, sila yung namamahala ng international and global trade and investment. So, pinaka-goal talaga ng world trade is to reduce tariffs or importation taxes on imported goods. They also create agreements or policies sa mga member countries regarding policies that push governments to relax regulation on environment, food safety, and product quality. And it also encourages countries to deregulate economies. When we say deregulate economies, ibig sabihin, hindi na masyadong mangingialam yung mga business, hindi na masyadong mangingialam yung government sa mga businesses. So here, the businesses are given the freedom to implement their visions, goals, and operation. So, kokonti na lang yung role ng government sa businesses. However, one of the negative impact of the regulation is that naaano siya, yung mga businesses umaabuso. Kasi, yung mga businesses masyado nang kinukurakot yung mga natural resources kasi hindi nga nangingialam yung government na. And then, in terms of labor, so since the businesses are given the freedom kung magkano yung isisweldo nila sa mga laborers nila, it often result to low wages. So, nagsasuffer dito is yung labor rights ng mga workers. Another one, it also leads to unstable employment, underservicing of consumers, and privatizing common resources. So, yan yung downside ng pagbibigay ng freedom sa mga businesses. Now, ano naman yung impact ng globalization sa Philippines? So, punta na muna tayo sa positive side. Because of economic globalization, di ba nagkaroon tayo ng global trading? So, this global trading opens up new markets for Philippine products. Thus, it also increases our exports ng products natin. So, as we all know, the Philippines is a major exporter ng mga electronic products, particularly yung mga electronic components or semiconductors. So, we are exporting these products abroad, and this contributes significantly to the country's export earnings and economic growth. Aside from that, because of economic globalization, nakaka-attract tayo ng mga foreign investments dito sa Pilipinas. And because of this, nai-stimulate yung economic development natin. Gumaganda yung ekonomiya natin kasi maraming gustong mag-invest na foreign investor dito sa Philippines. So, for example, yung mga businesses sa ibang bansa, naghahanap sila ng mga laborers dito sa Philippines, like yung mga sa BPO industry natin. So, instead na mag-hire sila ng physical assistant sa bansa nila, hindi nila gagawin yun kasi nga, mahal yung labor cost doon sa kanila. So, pupunta sila dito sa Pilipinas. Kasi, mura yung pasweldo sa mga laborers. So, parang win-win situation. Kasi, malaki yung kikitain ng foreign investor. And then, sa Pilipinas, gaganda naman yung ekonomiya. Another example is yung mga kumpanya gaya ng Toyota, Samsung, and Nestle. So, meron silang established manufacturing facilities and operations dito sa Pilipinas. So, they create more jobs, and of course, it stimulates economic growth. So, usually, itong mga foreign direct investors natin, they take advantage of our lower labor cost. Another positive impact ng economic globalization sa Pilipinas is nakakapag-participate tayo in global trading. And our participation in global trading allows the Philippines to access foreign capital and technology, which can enhance productivity and competitiveness in key industries. So, nakaka-attract tayo ng mga foreigners, foreign investors, and international financial institution na gustong mag-fund sa mga proyekto sa Pilipinas. For example, yung infrastructure project ng Philippines gaya ng Skyway Stage 3 project. So, itong Skyway Stage 3 project ng Philippine government, funded to through our loans from China, Japan, and other local banks. So, itong infrastructure project na to, it aims to lessen the traffic congestion in Metro Manila. So, this project demonstrates how global trading facilitates foreign capital and technology for infrastructure development. However, hindi lahat positive. May downside yung may downside yung economic globalization sa Philippines. Because of global trading, one of the downside is yung binanggit ko kanina, competition from imported goods. So, since nai-increase yung competition from imported goods, nagiging challenge ito sa mga domestic industries. Especially those industries na less competitive or technologically advanced. So, for example, 'di ba yung rice tarification law? So, yung rice tarification law, ang ginagawa diyan, nag-i-import yung Philippines ng rice coming from abroad. So, ang at risk dito or yung nadadali dito is yung mga local farmers natin. Kasi, bakit ka naman mag-i-import ng rice coming from other countries kung kaya naman dito sa Philippines na makapag-produce ng rice? Kasi we are in an agricultural country. Most of the places are more on agriculture. So, bakit ka mag-aangkat ng bigas, 'di ba? So, ang tendency niyan, bakit ka mag-i-import ng bigas? So, ang tendency niyan, yung imported na bigas, mas mura compared sa locally produced na bigas ng Pilipinas. So, ang tendency ng tao is syempre tatangkilikin nila yung imported rice kasi mas mura siya. So, yan yung isa sa downside ng economic globalization. Nagkakaroon ng competition with imported goods. And aside from that, yung pagiging over-reliant natin or pagiging dependent natin sa mga foreign markets. Kasi once na nagkaroon ng mga changes in global trade policies tariff and regulations, apektado tayo. Yun nga yung sinasabi ko kanina, na once na naka-experience yung bansang interconnected tayo ng crisis, isa tayo sa agad na maapektuhan nung crisis na yun kahit hindi sa atin nag-umpisa yung crisis. An example for that is yung COVID-19 pandemic. 'Di ba marami nagsisarahan na business during the COVID-19 kasi kokonti na lang yung global demand. Kasi mas focus sila sa medicine. So, yung mga ibang products, apektado. Wala nang demand sa ibang products. Kaya, yung Philippine exports natin, particularly in electronics and manufacturing sectors, naging affected because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Kasi bakit ka naman magpuproduce pa ng cellphone kung nagkakamatayan na yung mga tao because of the pandemic? So, kasi nung pandemic, 'di ba? Mas focus yung tao sa medicine at hindi sa ibang products. So that affected our exportation of products coming from the Philippines. So that ends our discussion for today.